Last night is one of the few opportunities that this government will have this year to really hold the attention of a few million Australians. And therefore, it's a very, very important political occasion. So when you are sitting down to work out what you're going to say, whether you are a Labor treasurer or a Liberal treasurer, you are obviously going to think, what impact will this have on the political circumstances of the time? Now, I don't think it's a distortion or a piece of political partisanship for me to say that the current federal government is in a great deal of political difficulty. And that political difficulty derives fundamentally and almost totally, not completely, but almost so, from the outcome of the last federal election. The last election delivered an outcome which we haven't had since 1940. We have a minority government, and that minority government, as you know, is sustained by some Greens on the one hand, and I treat Andrew Wilkie as a Green because he's been a member of the Greens longer than any other political party. And on the other side, of course, there are the two independents representing very conservative electorates. The reality is that we have a state of political gridlock, and that gridlock is going to remain until the next federal election takes place, where it's my confident prediction that one way or another the Australian people will deliver a decisive outcome. They won't vote for gridlock again because they don't like it. We've had 25 or 30 years of governments actually doing things when they've been in office, and we now have a situation, quite unexpectedly, where the government is paralysed because of its precarious political position. Now, that is a straight, objective observation. It's not a piece of political rhetoric. And on top of that, the government has two besetting political problems. The first of it is called carbon tax, and the second is called asylum seekers. Now, the carbon tax is a very difficult and indeed politically terrifying thing for the government, because it's got itself into the predicament of talking about a new tax without being able to explain what that new tax is. I think one of the big mistakes the government has made about the carbon tax is that they have never really accepted the need to go out and explain why we need it and what it involves. The Australian public, in my view, will accept big reforms providing two conditions are satisfied. The first condition is that they have to be satisfied that the reform is in the national interest. It has to be good for Australia. Believe it or not, Australians do vote for the national interest. The other political difficulty the government has, of course, is asylum seekers. Now, I don't want to dwell on that. I think everybody knows my position and the position of the government I led on that issue, but could I just contextualise it with the issue of immigration? I agree 100% with what Peter Switzer said about immigration. I am a very strong supporter of high immigration. I think immigration has always been important to this country, and it's always been the source of our growth and our strength, and it will be into the future. And although when people think about immigration and they think of the government I led, they think of asylum seekers and us stopping people coming illegally. But of course the real story about immigration during that period of time was that orthodox immigration continued to rise. And the other thing you should understand is that if you assure people that you are controlling borders and running an orderly immigration program, public support for orthodox immigration gets higher. We measured that, and it was quite clear over the time we were in government that support for immigration rose because people felt the program was being run in an orderly fashion. And I think the fall-off in immigration has been a huge mistake. And I think one of the reasons why there's more nervousness about immigration is that people think the borders are out of control, and if you remedy that problem, and that's very difficult, then I think public support for immigration is going to resume its upward path, because fundamentally Australians think immigration has helped to build this country, which it has, and I think fundamentally they're very much in favour of it, all things being equal. So that is really the political context. Trouble on the carbon tax front, trouble on the asylum seekers front, and what I think the government needed to be able to do last night was to kickstart a political dialogue on something else that would get the public's attention away from the carbon tax and asylum seekers. And I have to say, I don't think the government succeeded in doing that.